Hey guys. Okay, so time for another story. Now this one goes plumb back to around the beginning of the 20th century. This is about the Wright brothers, the first aviators. Now I know that like before them there had been other people who took flight, but the Wright brothers were the ones who created the first successful airplane. So let's go on ahead and get into their story. Wilbur and Orville Wright were well known for inventing and flying the first successful airplane. But what else? Sorry, I'm pittering around with my hair. Okay. Wilbur, I keep wanting to say Wilburn, but it's Wilbur, no N, was born in 1867 close to Millville, Indiana. He was in the middle of 5 children. And his dad was a bishop in the church. Orville was born in 1871. Wilbur, sorry. Wilbur and Orville were great playmates because Orville was like, I don't know if he was the baby. It didn't say if he was the baby of the family, but he was definitely a lot younger. And so, Wilbur had fun playing with his baby brother. Orville nor Wilbur had ever attended college. They never did. Now, they had a sister whose name was Catherine, and she did. They took interest in flight when Mr. Wright brought them a model helicopter, which was based on a design by a French aeronautical pioneer named Alphonse Pinard. Wilbur was very intelligent and excelled in school. He had plans to attend college. He was going to try to attend Yale, but he had an accident in the winter of '86. Playing ice hockey, another player ended up hitting him in the face with their hockey stick, and he got hurt pretty bad. So therefore, because of that incident, even though the injuries healed basically, it threw him into depression, and therefore he didn't finish high school and he didn't go to college. Instead, he went back home and he picked up reading and took care of Mrs. Wright, and she got sick of tuberculosis and died. This was in 1989. That same year, Wilbur and Orville started a newspaper, and it was called the West Side News. Wilbur edited and Orville published it. They also took interest in bicycles, so they opened up a bike shop, repairing bikes and selling their own design. They kept up with new scientific developments and also kept up with a German aviator, Otto Lilienthal When he died in a crash in his glider, Orville and Wilbur decided they was going to see if they could make a successful plane. So they studied birds and how they used their wings to fly, how that they would tilt them and stuff according to the wind for direction and stuff. And so they worked with that, and the mechanics of machines, the mechanics, they worked with wings that would be able to have the lift in the wind so that it could carry the plane, And so they went to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, because apparently it's windy there. And with working on the rings of their plane and stuff, their first motorized successful plane was flown. And this was December 17th of 1903. Wilbur flew it. It was 852 feet up off the ground, and he flew it for just 1 second less than a whole minute. Pretty successful for that time, that ingenuity. But after they was successful with it, they tried to get it generated and patented, and like the people of the United States doubted that they had actually done this. So Wilbur went to Europe to try to convince the Europeans of his machine. And it happened that France was very accepting of this, and so he gave rides to different people. He flew several times giving rides to individuals, letting them see that it worked, letting them know. In 1909, Orville joined Wilbur, and then they sewed their planes while they were there in Europe, and then that same year they returned to the United States. And they ended up becoming pretty wealthy, and their planes, their design, became pretty much desired and in demand. And so they ended up signing contracts to build these planes for Europe and the United States. They became very successful with their invention. The brothers shared the credit in their inventions, and but as it happened, Wilbur more or less was the brain behind the entire work. All through their lives, they were best of friends. They maintained a very good relationship. Wilbur became sick, went on a trip to Boston, and he went back home. And at this time, his dad lived in Dayton, Ohio, so he went back home to Dayton, Ohio, and he died of typhoid fever. It's so much easier to read it. The word comes out as you're reading it in your mind. Typhoid fever. And that was in 1912. His dad had wrote in his diary how that Wilbur had lived a short life, but how that he worked hard to be successful and pursued his career. Orville died in 1948. Now, I couldn't find anywhere about if Orville died of a sickness or of natural causes, so we'll just assume that he died of a natural cause, because he was born in 1871 and died in 1948, so it was a decent age. That was like over 70 years, right? I'm not going to sit here and do the math with you. Anyway, so we'll just assume Orville died of natural causes, whereas Wilbur died of the fever. So, and it's so amazing, you know. You look at their work. They're plain, and that is just a simple open frame with double rings, you know. And it's like, you look at that, and then you look at today's airplanes, and there is such a difference in the make. And you definitely know that today's modern planes weigh so much more than what Wilbur and Orville's plane ever weighed, but yet they can fly. So through many trials and errors, I'm sure the world of aviation had created an even better way of flight, because these modern planes, they've got longer ring spans, and they're single rings, not double ringed. So, you know, you marvel. You see originals and moderns, and the technology, it's incredible. It's amazing. Of course, like, it is well known that the Wright brothers created the first successful airplane, and it was done in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, and I'd say quite a few know that they had lived in Ohio. But, like, how many knew that they originally was born in Indiana, or how Wilbur died, or what year Orville passed away, you know, or that they were 2 out of 5 kids? I mean, not very many people would know that much about them. Now, I knew also that they had a bike shop. I knew that. But I never knew that they had made newspaper. I didn't know about that. And I didn't know about them being born in Indiana. I didn't know what years they had died, or how Wilbur had died. You know, I didn't know those. I didn't know those facts. So it's very interesting seeing and reading about people who invented things that is so useful now. In my stories, any stories that I tell, I'm looking for things that's not talked about so much on YouTube. My husband had mentioned about me talk about the Carpenters. Well, the Carpenters is on YouTube a lot because of anorexia. And, you know, Karen Carpenter suffered from anorexia nervosa and died from it, from complications with her heart. So, you know, the Carpenters is quite a bit on YouTube. Jan and Dean wasn't mentioned that much. Gretchen's lock is hardly mentioned at all. So I am looking for subject matters that's not of a broad spectrum. You can look anywhere on YouTube and find stories about like haunted roads, haunted places, and da. But yeah, I would like to tell stories that's got to do with of an interesting bit, but also maybe with a hint of tragedy, like something that is captivating and interesting while at the same time has a significance. So yeah, and I will do stories of different genres. I'll do research on real things, finding out truth and fact what I can. Even if it is a repeat on YouTube. But I would really like to do the things that's not talked about as often. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is I'm offering it out to you. If there is something of interest that you would like to know more about, and you can't hardly find it on YouTube, tell me what it is that you would like for me to research on and give a video about. I will be more than happy to look it up, see what I can find, if anything, and give it out there. I'll be more than happy. So just in the comments below, tell me what you're interested in, what you would like for me to do research on, and tell you about it. So that is about the Wright brothers and basically what they done around the time of the airplane and stuff, and hope that you enjoyed. Have a great evening.